was chubby and spotty when I met him from college. He was strict, he was ruthless, but a fountain of knowledge. Work experience was spent being told what to do. If you're late, that's okay, we'll just leave without you. Told all my friends that it's a job made for me, but I can't work for Andrew, he's too strict and angry. With all of that said, I went back on my word. 10 years I spent with this fishery nerd. 3 decades in fisheries, this character takes form. A passion for making healthy fisheries the norm. The discipline, the focus on just the things that matter. Ignore it or learn from this fishery natter.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. We are back with the Fishery Fastlane, and I'm joined by Andrew Ellis, who I feel that we should have had you on a lot earlier, but I went off on this podcast journey with a producer, and I went out recording different people, putting myself in situations which I'm not really comfortable with, speaking with other people, and I probably got a little bit too comfortable chatting with Andy, the stuff that we go on about, so I've kind of neglected the comfort zone, haven't I? So here we are. Andrew, I first came to work with Andrew, first met Andrew 16 years ago when I was at college, at Sparshot College, studying fishery management, and I couldn't find anywhere to go on work experience, and I couldn't find anywhere that would take me that I wanted to go, really, so I ended up having to go with Andrew. Viv put me in touch with Andrew, and I didn't actually, it's about an hour north for me, so I wasn't really familiar with Andrew and what he did 16 years ago. But I remember going back to college, and I loved the job. I remember at the time thinking, I love the job, but I don't know if I could work for Andrew. And then after that, I worked with you for about 10 years, didn't I? So, I mean, it's not the most positive production I've given to anyone, but I don't need to tell you how successful Andrew's been in fishery management and fishery consultancy. But, Andrew, where do you think, though, those early years, would you agree that you were a little bit more prickly and quite more controversial, would you say? Where does that all come from, do you reckon?
Are you going to wear that hat the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay. It's Christmas. Just so we know. Good. Yeah. Yeah, Merry Christmas. Yeah, well, no, I think it was because of being stubborn, because I was so young, and when I worked for them, I learned a lot from working there, obviously, and I was doing that while I was still at school, and doing that every day. I'd never done any real hard graft before I did that, so it was like straight into, you know what it's like, straight into proper cold, and it was proper cold winters back then. But they were very strict, and they were very, well, it was not really strict, it was just learning to graft, learning work ethic, and like, you get up on time and you go to work and you're there and it's cold and it's wet, and it's a bit like when you go out on a boat, if you're seasick, you're out for the day, you're not getting back because someone feels ill, you're there, so you just deal with it. It's that sort of thing. It's like, but the difference there was as soon as I could drive, they put me in pickup trucks, so I was delivering fish all over the country. Tons and tons of fish all over the place, and I loved it because I got to see so many different waters. Obviously we were netting waters back then, not every day, but I got to go and interact with the clients all the time. And when you're working for someone and you're there just to sell fish, I was delivering fish all the time, but most of the places I was going to, even in those early years, because you're netting lakes all the time and you're in the water, you're doing the job, and obviously having been to college, you kind of like think, you don't need these fish. Yeah. And it was frustrating because I think that's where it all came from, because I quite quickly wanted to start, rather than just selling fish, which anyone does, is trying to be more direct and approaching these people and saying that you don't need this, you need to do this instead. And when you get the basics and you learn that from a young age, if you're involved, it is quite straightforward, in my opinion. So I think that attitude actually came from having to be direct, because that's the only sort of language a lot of these people understand. It's no good going in and blinding them with science. It's no good trying to be clever or trying to, that's all irrelevant, because angling clubs especially, you need to go in and say, don't do this, do that, because this is what will happen. Yeah,
I've got a perfect example for what I mean by that. Not prickly nature, but why you're the person that's perfect for the role that you're in. Because there was a job a little while back that I joined you on. I don't want to give too many details away and wrongdoing on anyone, but it was a fishery where it was a public place, so families would go there, and we were there. There was a pond on the site, which it was full of silverfish. You'll probably know what I'm talking about in a minute. But it was full of silverfish. They'd put some carp in there. They wanted all the silverfish out to make space for these stockfish that they put in there to grow on. And there was so many silvers. It was late in the spring, and it was a public place. So it was important to you, like on every job, the fish are always the priority. You don't care what anyone on the bank says, if the fish are the priority. So on this site, I think if anybody else like me, probably being a yes man, listening to the people on the bank, I would have probably respected what they said and think, yeah, okay, we'll do what they say. But this is why you're the perfect person for the job, because if you did what anyone else probably would have done and listened to them, there would have been a lot of dead fish that day. There was, as the net was coming in, the silvers were clearly crowding and struggling and starting to turn over. And then you had a lot of people on the bank saying, no, we've got to get them out. That's what you're here to do. Yeah. And they said, you told them right from the start, if we're going to do this, you need to be organised because it's getting warm. These fish are going to start turning over. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah. And then you got a lot of stick for that. And I think with anyone else that would have listened to them would have had a lot of dead fish, a lot of public that would have seen that and pinned it on you. Yeah, cool. So you knew what was right for the fish on that day. You got a lot of friction from people on the bank that day. And I feel like
just a couple of random.
Oh yeah. But for anyone else that would have listened to that, it would have been a completely different day, and then it would have been on their head. And that's why I think you're the perfect person for the job, because you do exactly what's right for the fish and not listening and letting anybody else influence you on your decision making on that day. Yeah. And that's what I think I mean by people, you probably come across prickly to some, but it's because your priority is in the right place for your role, isn't it? Because as a fishery consultant.
Well, that it has to be. It's like, you're from a farming background. It's without the livestock, it's all about the fish. It has to be all about the fish. Yeah. And you can take that as far as you want, because nowadays, I'm very fussy about fish welfare and everything, even to the point where we'll put a video on of us grading, and you've done it with me more than enough times, and we're throwing fish over the net, and you always get comments like, "Oh, wouldn't have them down my place throwing fish around like that," and you try and point out that, because they always come back to the fact that how is that different than having fish in keep nets, and I get that a lot, and it does make you laugh, but you've got to always kind of. When I was younger, I'd just bite and I'd go, oh, shut up. But now you have to go, okay, I don't really understand. Yeah. But what we're doing in the wind, everything we do every day has to be focused on the fish. So if an owner says, this is what I want to achieve in 5 years, you'll go down that road with them and say, right, okay, I do all these little bits and pieces. But ultimately, and we don't really talk about the fish much on the job and in the summer work, when we're actually doing these jobs, all the other bits and pieces of the puzzle that you put together ultimately are all there to improve the fish and the fishing and the condition and the growth rates and all that of the fish, regardless of species. It just doesn't make no difference. But you have to be like that. And at the end of the day, I'm very fortunate because I've been able to do this full time on my own for many, many years with the help that I get. And I wouldn't do anything else, but I've had to be like that because otherwise you don't get anywhere. Or, I'm responsible for an awful lot of fishery stocks and businesses and work with a lot of clients that I've worked for many, many years. And then there is reasons for that. And Chris Mack's a good example because he always tells a story when we're there, doesn't he? The fact that, I went as I was a lot younger then, and I went to him and Jane and their lovely couple, and when they had their old fishery, and he was a dairy farmer, and I went in and said, you got too many fish, this, that and the other. And he always tells a story, the fact that he said to Jane, well, he's coming here and he's told me I've got to do this. And he said, well, I'm paying him, so I might as well listen to him. And he sort of said that, and I've worked for him for the best part of 20 years. And now he's got a fantastic fishery, which he's grown on these huge carp, and it's absolutely fantastic. But I don't know any different because I've had the luxury of being able to do this my whole life. It's not like I've come into it late, or it's not like I'm trying to prove a point, to be honest. I'm not here going, I'm going to rewrite the rules. I've always been saying the same stuff. It's just as you get older and you get a bit more respect and a bit more credibility and you get a portfolio of work, people tend to listen a bit more. Yeah.
So do you think that level of discipline was seeded from those earlier years, or do you think that's something that you've learnt through your job and working with fisheries?
A bit of both, definitely. When I was really young, when I was doing this, as soon as I left college and came back, they had already offered me a job. So when I started it, and I've got a lot of them to thank for, because they grafted me. They taught me how to work, and I used to get drunk and turn up stinking hangovers on a Monday, and which you can get away with for a good number of years when you're young. But yeah, I learned how to get up early and learn how to deal with the cold and deal with the wet and just deal with constant long days and getting tired. But then it's like I said to you in the past, when the net comes in, it's full of fish, all the pain goes away for a few hours, and it's like, okay, this is great. But So yeah, that was when it started. Because before that, I had a paper round, and that was about it. But that the discipline side of it is getting up early. Really, being on time is a massive part of the job. Because like yesterday and the day before, we'd just been to North Norfolk, and on Monday we left my house at 4:00, and we got there just before 8:00. Straight out of the truck, nets in, did a 10-hour day there. Yeah. Then went back to accommodation, quick bit of food, bed, back out, 6:30 at the fishery, 7:00, and again, then got home at 8:30, 8:45 last night. And that's the winter.
That rubs off though, doesn't it? Because I know when I came to work with you, and I knew that you were strict, and I wanted to be in that fishery industry. And that discipline obviously rubbed off for me, because I've made sure I was never late for you.
You were never late, yeah.
So then that you carry that discipline later through in every job you do then.
I think it's respectful as well. You know, if people are paying you, if a client's paying us, and we get a lot of work off the back of other people's sort of stupidity, I guess. But well, it is, because, you know, there's a reason why you have clients that you keep. Yeah. And there's no loyalty really. I've got no contracts. I've got no reason for people to, I don't get people to sign anything or whatever. It's just an annual yearly thing. But we go back to the same places year in, year out, and we pick up new work, because I think if you say you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, be there. Yeah. Excuses are so easy, especially in this day and age. You just get up.
Was there anybody influencing you back in that time?
I think what was good about when I was younger, it's a bit like when you go to college. When you're at college, if you don't turn up for lectures, no one's telling you, right, you don't really get told off. You know, then there's no one knocking on the door trying to get you up. You just don't go.
No, yeah.
And you think, to start with, you think, great. But then you think, hang on, I'm missing out a bit here. At work, when I started, and I was so young, so small, there's a few pictures I every now and then I recirculate online of me when I was, first time I went, it was before my 16th birthday, and it was netting and it was freezing cold. But if the people there went at Farming Fisheries, when they said to me, meet here, and quite often I'd bike down initially, and then motorbike down to set a service station on the A14, and they'd pull into the services, and if I weren't there, they'd just carry on. Yeah. And I just wouldn't go. I mean, I was getting paid nothing at the time. Yeah. So I'd get down there, and I might be a few minutes late. They'd have gone. Yeah. I'm like, and there's no mobile phones. Yeah. So you can't just ring them up and go, oh, I'm here now. You just went home.
Yeah. See, that makes sense now to like the introduction. It's so true.
But I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, I always, you know, you do have time to reflect as you get older. I'm 50 in a few months, and you do have time, and you think, you know, it was good, although I cursed it, because when my back started getting bad and all that sort of stuff, and you're getting overworked and massively underpaid, you think, okay, didn't get really appreciated back then. But then it does, and I think there's less of that probably happens now, because you're not allowed. You've got to be so careful now. You know, you can't really. You know, I've been very lucky with the likes of yourself and Jack and the boys I've got now, Chip and Ben, where we all understand, but we all come from a background which is similar, and we all understand work ethic, and we all love what we do. Yeah, that's the key thing, because if you love it and you're willing to get up early, we try and have a laugh as much as possible. You know, you've worked for me for a lot of years on and off, and it's like we try and keep it as light-hearted as possible, simply because it's hard work.
Yeah, yeah. And what was the fishery landscape like back then? When were you seeing the same problems back then that you're seeing now?
Yes and no. Like I said before, the main things I've seen change in the last 30 years are predation and climate, definitely. They're the two biggest. I mean, cormorants, I remember when I was very young, the NRA, which is now the Environment Agency, we were doing surveys at angling water venues, Grafham, Rutland and Pittsford, and we were noticing cormorants dive bombing and eating fish. And the NRA at some point back then, it'd have been the 90s, they put out a statement saying we don't think cormorants will eat coarse fish because they're from the sea. Wow. That's how things could change. Yeah. And, because we were seeing hundreds of them, and they were working in big swarms, flocks, I guess, whatever, diving and eating coarse fish. I was speaking to someone the other day, we used to... when I had a moped, I had to go to John Wilson's tackle den in Norfolk to borrow his echo sounder. Nowadays, you just use any old bait, you'd use something on a GPS if you wanted to. Yeah. But when we first started doing those big lakes, which is where I really started, they're 800-900 acres, 1,000 acres, and wow. you ended up learning that you wouldn't rely on an echo sounder. You just bang 600 meters of net round with a cormorant.
Yeah, reading the nature more than because I said you turn up to fisheries. Well, from my experience of working with you, and there's anglers on the bank saying, "Oh no, you need to be over there. No, if someone caught something down there, you need to be netting there." But so as the modern day climate, and obviously we've just come out of the hottest, driest summer in 2025. How is that changing fisheries and the way they're managed?
I've done more consultancy visits in the last 3 years than I have in the last 7 or 8. I reckon it's got a lot more. That side of it's got a lot more busy for me personally, and I think a lot of that, and near enough all of them, not all of them. Some are like farm diversification projects. Some are just angling clubs looking to sort of improve. But quite a few of them, 7 or 8 in the last 8 or 9 months, 7 or 8 this year, have been what you'd class as historic carpy lakes, old school pits in the most popular sort of carpy areas of the country, where they've kind of got away with running fisheries how they've run them, which is, and I get why there's a conflict of interest, and I get that, and I get why some people rub people up the wrong way in this respect, because for my own personal fishing, not that I do much fishing anymore, but my own personal fishing, I want personally that sort of lake, that sort of environment where it is all kind of weedy and low stock and overhanging trees and snags. I love all that if no one's there. But the reality of that, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
And what the last 10 years worth of weather really does. I mean, when I was growing up doing that, it was cold in the winter and relatively mild and not that really hot like it has been. People will say, but go back, there was this 1 year or this 2 years. Yeah, of course. But in general, we had a much colder winter and it's fairly a bit more settled. Whereas now it's like this.
Yeah.
And fish don't like change. No fish like change. Quick, fast changes. They like fairly stable and slowly gradual, changing environments when it's slow. So without a doubt, when you have summers like this, when we've had no rain, drought, and then now it's probably going to be, everyone will be flooded in a couple of days if it carries on. It's ridiculous. And it's December the 8th, 9th, whatever it is now, and it's mild as hell. And it'll probably get cold for a couple of weeks, and then it'll be mild again. What that does with a lot of these venues, especially these big old pits where all they've really done, got to be honest with them, all they've really done, a lot of them, is stock fish.
Yeah.
All right, they might have done a little bit of work. Yeah. Or they've put a ton of chalk in a 20-acre lake thinking that'll solve all their problems, But the reality is most of them have kind of just knocked a few pegs together, put a few fish in and check the oxygen once a month or something like that. Not all of them. There's some amazingly well-run clubs all the time, but a lot of the ones we go to, they've rested on their laurels. Yeah. And as fish die, they put more in and, try and be ultra carpy. And they don't want to upset the anglers, I think a lot of it is, and the kind of the trendy side of it by doing any real productive work. And the downside of that, what really annoys me, is they don't see what we see, and they don't see the effects it has until it's too late. No. And a lot of these lakes I'm going to, they've left it way too late, or in certain respects, the owner has sold them not because they're running it a certain way, or they're saying, "Oh, this is a very special venue." It's because they look and they think, "Right, I need a lot of money now to fix these problems, and I haven't got it. So I'll sell it now." Because to a lot of people, it will look amazing. Yeah. But if they're clever, the person who's selling that will go, "Yeah, I can't afford that. It's going to cost me a fortune. Let's just get out, cut and run." And you can't blame them to a certain degree. But I get frustrated with that, because I think, but if you'd have just done a bit every year, you could have had it as an asset, forever. Yeah. And again, it's not about the fish; it's about looking after the house. And there's so many examples of that. It's crazy. But people are starting to learn. There's more awareness now, but it's still, still the same sort of thing. Yeah,
I think like with the flooding and stuff, that one of the issues that isn't really spoken about is, around here as an example, we've got towns either side of the farm here. So we've got Wotton Bassett one way, Calne the other, and there's probably the level of development. I bet there's 100 acres either side of us it's been built on, and you think the rainfall on that 100 acres, when it was grass fields, it sits on the field, it slowly seeps through the ground. But when you put it on tarmac, it's rushing to drains, it's into the river systems within probably a few hours. Whereas on the fields, it might take weeks. And I don't think that's sort of highlighted enough. I know a lot of the sewage treatment people get a lot of flack for things like that, but I just think we should look at things like that and how quick water races into the systems. And when it does flood, everyone's open and letting all the crap out and washing things away while they can. So I think, that the finger is should be pointed more towards sort of development and things like that. But
also look at these pits. the majority of them, where they've got huge canopies of trees around the margins, from Google Earth, you look down and go, isn't it pleasant? Isn't it green? When you get down to bird's eye level, you're looking across, not all of them, but a great deal of them, and a lot of the ones I've been visiting, the lake's like a bucket. They're like a bucket for collecting rubbish. So runoff, trees, leaves, everything's going in there, and we're not really doing much about it. The one thing that you can really do something about is sort the margins out, reduce the leaf fall, and plant the margins. Plants are so underrated, and I preach about it till the day I die, how effective they can be. But a lot of the lakes we're talking about, when you actually get down and look, it looks nice and green, but a lot of them, it's tree root, bramble, nettles and stuff like that. None of that's doing the water any good. And the trees are soaking up water. They're using water as well. None of that's helping.
No.
If you've got nothing that's helping and you're not doing any work that's helping, what do you expect's going to happen? So, and we've proved this time and time and time again over many, many years. The ones that do suddenly go, it's frustrating when some of them actually only do it when they've got no choice because all the fish are dead. They go, okay, well, we're going to have to, it's like you slapped them on the wrist. But the ones that see it happening, or the ones that are good fishery managers or who know or who have learned or studied like us, you know it's all going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's just planning.
Just do, isn't it?
It's just being professional. It's just being looking ahead all the time. You're always looking ahead.
Yeah. So if you're a fishery and you're looking for help and advice, I guess the first place people go is online, and obviously there's freely available is forums, and you've got people contributing to different topics. Is that a good source of information, I guess, is the question.
I think having been from a generation where there was no internet at all, and we grew up without mobile phones and without everything you want in your pocket, and now being right in it, and technology's going, the exponential growth is ridiculous. It's so fast. I think it's the same as any business. Our business in that respect is the same as any business. You know, you can go on YouTube and search how to do anything, and there'll be content on there which is worth your time, and there'll be content which isn't worth your time. Same on any social media outlet. And, you know, rage bait is the latest word to be put into the English dictionary. And a lot of people thrive on that, and they put things out there deliberately to cause controversy. Yeah. I've never done that. People think I've done that, but I haven't. I've always spoke my mind. The difference is I've always been very confident, and I don't really care. I've got to be honest. And as you get older, you care less what people think of me. I'm not doing this to make friends. I wasn't ever doing it, and never thought I'd do it as a business. I just loved it, and it turned into a business. But in regard to the social media side of it and negative effects of that, things like forums, I don't tend to get involved in anyone else's stuff now. When a few of them started, I did, but I didn't really want to be involved with that sort of group, because if I put something on there and I used to put things on, and it gets copied and pasted, but they change the words and say it's what they said. I don't like that, so I backed off from all that and just started putting my own content on in a very haphazard way.
Yeah, it's like trying to get your point across in a noisy room and no one can hear you. There's so many different voices, and it's kind of like, is my time best spent helping people on there that have got 1,000 different opinions coming across? And it's just a noise, isn't it?
And everyone has got different opinions, and everyone's well entitled to their opinions. And we go to places which would never employ me to do any work because they do their own thing absolutely fine. And we've been to places where we've helped them, and now they take on board even the netting, and they buy nets absolutely fine.
Yeah.
You know, we're never short of work. So it's fine. I just want to help people to understand that the basics of the job are so important, the core essential things to keep your fish healthy and alive and progress your fishery. They're never going to change, in my opinion.
No, but even with those core principles that you always preach about online, every job is specific and has its own moving parts, doesn't it? So that's why I think you'll always have a role in what you do. Would you say that? Yeah,
it's like simple things like Siltex applications, calcium carbonate applications, or anything really is quite site specific. And what I don't like is when, you know, take that as an example, because the standard is right. Okay, you can put a ton an acre in and it's fine. And back in the day, I've put tons and tons, hundreds of tons of chalk in lakes, but I've also seen it can, like all of these things, it can have a negative effect. It's like it's a bit like with electrofishing. You know, you've done enough of that with me. We use it as a tool, and it's very specific. And it's the same with diffusion. I've always said to you, I do everything by eye. And that's the key. It's if something's written down in a book and you're regimented, or your job is not necessarily in an office, but in that environment where, right, that's written down, so that's what it is.
Yeah.
I can't do that in my job. because what's written down that'll be from one specific set of parameters in one specific bit of water.
Yeah.
But I'll be on a different water on a different day. Water temperature will be different.
Yeah.
Water quality will be different. Size of the water, substrate, stock, all of that will be different in every single pond. You've got ponds here, they're different. So you have to understand that. So you have to take a step back and go, right, okay, well, that's what that says, but here it's slightly different. And and the more you do, the more you learn. I'm still learning. You're just learning all the time. But I've had the luxury of being able to travel around the whole of the country and beyond and seen so much in so many extremes and abroad, extremes of heat, extremes of cold, extremes of high stock, extremes of to the max, dead fish to the max. All of these extremes I've seen, and what the triggers are in different environments over so many years. And I think that really helps.
So when you get involved with a client, are you getting a lot of background information? Or because a lot of the jobs I came on the job with you, we'd been there lots of years before, and lots of real customers you go back to annually, and you can kind of start to build a picture. Do you think that those that come to you for the first time, is it harder to advise and steer them when you don't know much about their fishery yet, or is it kind of a fact gathering exercise?
Yeah, the initial consultancy visits. I mean, sometimes it's just people just ring us up and they want us to go and try and crop silvers or just do a stock assessment survey, which is fine, But we're not just going to do that because you're in the water, you're learning all the time. So I always write them a report at the end saying, look, this is what we've found, blah, 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 whether they take any advice or not in that respect, because they're paying us to be there. So it's up to them what they do with that information. But when you do consultancy visits, I'm picking them up quite regularly where it's people, I'm very lucky, it's normally from recommendations now. And you can go places and you're trying to gauge what they want out of it.
Yeah.
Not out of me, but out of their asset, out of their business, or out of their land, or out of their lake, or if there's a field there and they're trying to dig a lake, you sort of say, okay, well, what's it going to be used for? The more information I can get out of the client initially about what they want to achieve, because it's very easy to go off on a tangent with anything, and I do that, but the more specific the client is with me and about what they're trying to achieve, and it's the same with an angling club. Do you want this to be a mixed fishery? Do you want this to be a carp fishery? Do you want this to be a match fishery? And where, and what, how many anglers have you got? All that sort of thing. The more information you can build up, where's your water coming from? Of course, the more information I can build up, then when we're working, you can just give them much more information.
Is it then with that, because I've on previous podcasts have spoken about understanding what you want, the business you're trying to achieve, because it makes decision making much easier. Because those fisheries that are just being fisheries, just being a fishing lake, is that in the modern times where there's lots of different lots of choices for anglers to where they want to go, is just being a fishery, is that not enough anymore? Or do you think there is a market for just being a fishing lake?
Well, I think, definitely, there's a market for that, but it's about wasted potential, because if you can be more, not necessarily specific, but as long as you're maximising every little bit, it's like with stockfish. There's no point just having a lake which you don't manage to stock in, because you're wasting potentially either where you could crop and sell some fish, which is, perfectly good thing to do if the fish are health checked and all that sort of thing, then you would use that as a cash crop. But if you're just running it as a fishery, we work at some lovely, I think a mixed fishery like the one at Edenbridge we did a couple of weeks ago, that's getting better and better and better. But again, that takes someone at the helm, if you like, who's quite stubborn, who's saying, this is how we're going to do it. And he has to bat off all the criticism from the club initially. And we've proven points with all these clubs that you can develop mixed fisheries. Everyone moans about cormorants. Everyone moans about everything, to be honest. But lakes like that, and there's a video on my YouTube soon, or it might be out now actually, that has got a genuine mixed species, decent amounts of everything, roach, bream, good size fish, tench, big carp. There's all sorts in there. But it wasn't like that 4 years ago. No one wanted to touch it, because they're like, oh no, we don't want to take any fish out because the fishing's hard enough anyway. And we started cropping fish. There's thousands of tiny silvers in there. And I kept trying to explain to them, in that specific environment, it's a beautiful lake, by taking out more of the tiny fish, the better quality roach will come through, and then you get more recruitment. They're sort of the basics, but implementing them on each specific case is where there's not necessarily a skill, but the experience comes into it. Because then I can go and say, right, okay, well, I do X, Y, and Z, and they're noticing differences. And that's what I still get a kick out of now.
Yeah, I think it's a huge element of developing a fishery is being patient and having time to build. But there'll be people in there that invest in fisheries as a business, and they want to bridge that gap between letting the site mature and maybe they'll put big fish in, or they'll try and rush things. Do you find that brings you work with mistakes made?
Yeah, of course.
Doing things like that.
Yeah. I think it's. I to this day don't think it's difficult if you do it from scratch.
No.
If you've got. The thing is now land is so expensive, everything's so expensive, and we all wish we'd have bought land when we were kids, or not kids, but when it was cheaper. But in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. But I don't think it's difficult if you had not an unlimited budget, but if you had a decent chunk of money that you could dig a lake, you could make it absolutely perfect day one. Personally, I just want it to be as maintenance free as possible, as productive as possible, and as pretty and as aesthetically pleasing as possible. So that, and if you get everything right from day one, your problems are so limited in future.
Yeah. And surplus fish, when people have them, like if you're developing a fishery like that, and because that can bridge the gap, if you've got a clay water where it's very fertile and you'll have surplus fish every year, how do people go about marketing themselves to be able to offload those fish? Or is it better to keep them on site in a stock ponds and having facilities like that?
We get asked a lot what happens to the silverfish.
Yeah.
And the realities are sometimes quite harsh. The fact that if the specific water's got a number of notifiable parasites present, then we can't legally move them. I don't move many fish around anymore. I used to sell lots and lots of fish. Used to have a fish farm, used to sell lots and lots of fish. Great. But I kind of much prefer this side of the job. So I've kind of steered away from that now. And it's suited me as I've got older to kind of go down this direction a lot more and take it a lot more seriously. And it's definitely paying off because it means more of my time can be spent on this side of the business. But when we get asked about silverfish, more often than not, you're moving them to another lake on site, which we're legally allowed to do. We religiously do all our paperwork at the EA. It takes me a long time every September to fill out all of my consents. But basically, that ideally you want to move them. However, there's absolutely no point most of the time moving 2 to 4 inch roach from Lake A to Lake B because you're going to create another problem. A lot of people say, why don't you put them in the rivers and the canals? Well, speak to the Environment Agency about that because, in my opinion, a lot of the time the Environment Agency, we know a lot of people who work for them. We work well with them, but if they go and check the health of the rivers and if they went and did a lot of actual parasitic studies on certain rivers, you think, well, why not put them in there? Because it's a bit double standard, really, in some respects. But sometimes they have to get buried. Yeah, which is widely known, and people might go, oh no, you can't be killing fish. But if you don't do that, the aquatic environment is very different from our own. And if you don't make that space, nature will. Mm-hmm. Nature will be cruel. Nature, boom and bust. Yeah. Boom and bust, boom and bust, boom and bust. We try and keep everything on an even keel. By doing that, something's got to give. So in an ideal world, you never want to destroy any fish. But sometimes it's inevitable and it's not just in carp fisheries. People think, oh, it's all carp. No way. A lot of the times we're cropping silvers to improve the quality and the longevity of better silvers, or better tench, or better crucial, or mixture, ideally. Yeah. But if any lake that I'm involved with, I'll net it personally every year. Yeah. Because, and so do you. You've seen how quickly. I said the other day, I said you can turn one of our round bins. It holds roughly 70, 80 pounds of fish. You can turn one of them bins into 20 of them bins in one season quite easily. Yeah. And the whole flip side of the difference when you're farming fish. And I've only ever done it sort of semi-intensively, never fed fish meal, all the stuff, keep it real simple. But when you can turn a bin full of fish into 10 or 15 or 20 in no time at all, it flips on its head when angling clubs keep buying fish every year. Yeah, well, we've been to jobs before, haven't we, where they're trying to, well, you're probably going to them weekly, but the jobs where angling clubs, they want better silverfish fishing, so they want more silvers. But your answer is often, from my experience working with you, is often, well, do you know what you've got? Do you know what you've got? Sort of thing. Because we can go around electric fishing. They want silvers to put in their lake. And actually, you can find a huge population hidden in a tiny percentage of the water. And you can say, what, you want more of these? Because they're sat in there. If you put more in, that's exactly where they're just going to go and hide with the others. Yeah. So, and that still happens to this day. A lot of clubs still insist, we haven't got many silverfish. We want to put more in. Or they just blame the cormorant culture, if you like. Say, well, there's no point because of cormorants. But you've only got to look at our social media. A real high percentage of the places we go, which are fished by cormorants, are stuffed full of silverfish. If they're this big, they don't often get caught. That's the big problem. Yeah, okay. So then I'm saying, look, if you remove these, because they're stunted a lot of the time, because a lot of these lakes are full of fish, So if you create that space, and unfortunately a cormorant wants to eat a 6 to 10 inch fish, really, it's his ideal size because he can eat it in one go. They're the fish they want, but you want more of those instead of having more of these tiny ones. So by tipping the balance in the cormorant's favour, and there's loads of things you can do. You know, I'm all for margins full of plants to keep the fish active, keep the fish moving. Doesn't matter what sort of fish, doesn't matter what sort of fishery it is. But if you can keep them active, keep them moving. The argument of snags and undercut banks, sanctuary, all this, I just don't believe any of that. No. If it's a nature reserve or a private, your own little lake, you can do what the hell you want with it. But if it's an angling club or if it's a business, you want productive, active fish stocks that are working for you, basically. So the best way to achieve that, regardless of what fish you want, in my opinion, you're always going to get cormorants. You're not going to stop cormorant predation. Yeah. But I can't remember the last time. Oh, actually, the one we've recently done, very little in the way of silverfish there. They'll be tucked up, but that's 12 acres of snags and stuff. They'll be tucked up under undercut banks. But in most of the waters we go to, where you'd think it would be easy for the cormorants to eat the fish, especially ones which we've helped develop, which are fringed with plants, full of silvers. Yeah. Ramful. And the anglers don't catch them. Yeah, that's the problem. Is if the anglers don't catch fish, they think they need more fish. That's one of the biggest gripes. Yeah,
and I think like a lot of the jobs that I've been on with you, where they want to know their population densities and they want to know how many fish they've got, where they need to fill in a void. But on some waters that aren't drainable, you've got to have a respect for what you don't know, and you can't get into reed beds and stuff. But there's also on the flip side of that, when you have a clay fishery or a man-made built fishery for fishing that's drainable, and the design of the fishery that needs to suit your management plan, doesn't it?
Of course, yeah.
So how do you go about those fisheries that want to know what their population is, what they've got, but they can't fully ever get a full understanding of what's hiding in those reed beds when we go around lecture fishing and lily beds of lilies and things like that? What would your advice to a club that can't really get a full understanding of what they've got?
Certain places we've been where it's very, very difficult to catch the fish with nets and lecture fishing kit anyway. Some places are just like that. However, from experience, you can still catch enough because you can catch samples of fish, and that'll give you an idea of what's in the lake. Yeah, you can look at how stunted they are. You can do scale readings. You can do all sorts, and just a general condition. You know if they're being fed. You know that comes just from experience. Yeah, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of lakes. Because we can go to a club and say, and if it's difficult for us to catch the fish in those lakes, it's probably going to be quite difficult for the anglers to catch them as well. Yeah. Not necessarily because people go, so I could stalk that. Yeah, of course you can, but your average general angler, especially on an angling club, isn't like that. They want to turn up, spend 3 hours setting up, and spend 2 hours fishing, then go home. Yeah. So you're trying to cater for that, but basically, if you stick to the principles, really, you can achieve a great deal in that respect. Yeah.
Is there, in your content then, is there a lot more thought going into the educational side for anglers that need to see your side of it to understand the decisions the fishery managers are making? So anglers that they've got an idea of what they think is in there, but actually you've been there and actually understood the history of the lake and through previous perhaps consultancies. And is there an element of education for anglers that you put into your content and stuff?
I try not to label them all. I've been a fisherman since I was 8 or 9, and it's been my life. Yeah, you know it. It's all I've done. My whole life has been angling, everything fishing. I lived and died and breathed fishing my whole life. So I do get frustrated. It's a bit like, I'll tell you what it's a bit like. It's a bit like, I love travelling as well. Love going to different parts of the world. Being a person who loves fish and loves fishing and loves nature and all that sort of stuff, and then seeing the shitty side of that. Yeah, for me, that's like when you go on holiday. Yeah, and you go somewhere quite nice, and then you see a load of pissed up Brits in Ben Sherman shirts falling around. That's how I look at anglers who are idiots.
That's hugely damaging. This is a topic I like to talk about.
Yeah, I look at them and think, what you're giving it all this. And it's just frustrating. And I have in the past I've made the mistake of arguing with people online about stuff like that. And I'll stick to my guns when it comes to everything, especially to do with fish welfare and fishery management. You know, I'm very fussy about all that sort of stuff. But then I'm in quite a unique position where I do a lot more of that work than a lot of people in the country. Yeah. That's just a given. You know, I've spent many years delivering fish, many years working at fisheries, but a culmination of all of those years, I visit over 120 fish. We added it all up a few weeks ago. The last 10 years, we've done over 120 fishery visits every year in the last 10 years. That's not just saying hello. That's either going there to net the lake, going there on a consultancy visit, or going there and doing fishery management work in the summer. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
So it's thousands and thousands and thousands of work of lakes. So you're going to learn.
Yeah,
what needs to be done.
I think we're seeing it more and more in the locality of the water park, and you've got Natural England now, it's all a triple SI, and you think, I can kind of understand why they seem to have a little bit of how angling isn't very palatable. When you walk around a lake, sometimes we're quite an intimidating. Carp anglers can be quite intimidating. If you're walking a dog, they got their hoods up, they're vaping, and I think it's a very snobby thing for me to say, and it's a topic we keep talking about.
It's
but
right though, yeah.
I'm just a bit concerned that we're going to be actually a little bit of a stain on the environment, and we're going to have a bit of a bad rep if we're seen like that.
I think it's horses for courses. I think there's enough. Again, you've got to relate it to any business. It's no different than saying football.
No,
football hooligans bring the name down. Yeah, of course they do.
Yeah,
but it's a relatively small amount of people compared to the good it's doing. I mean, all the recent sort of popularity of mental health, fishing, etc., being outside. I mean, we all know that.
Yeah,
we all know how good it is for you. We all know how. There's a recent one in the press about this. Was it a Lido or something that the council shut down for fishing? And we all know that's going to have no fishing in a few years' time. The eco people go, oh yeah, fishing's bad. Don't do any fishing on there. It's like, okay, well, you go back there in 5-6 years' time, there won't be any fishing there, unless the council have been. They don't want anglers, but they still want to sort of have the bravado of saying, "Oh, we're managing it." Now, most of the time, those lakes just go to rack and ruin. Yeah, and as much of the bad, negative side of things I see, the positives far outweigh that. And you can go to a lot of venues which are well managed, people with good work ethic, people with like us who genuinely care about the industry, the fish, stocks, and the future. That far outweighs all the negativity and the idiots, and let them go and do what they like. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're never going to change their attitude or their opinions. They've been around it too long now. Some people are envious. Some people are just annoyed and angry. There's a lot of angry people in the world. Let them go and be angry. I disassociate myself with so much of that now. When I first met you, I was still quite willing to argue with these sort of people online, or if they put something on there I didn't like, I'd go, that's rubbish. Yeah. You should be doing this.
You've mellowed a lot. That's what I meant at the start. Yeah. You have mellowed a lot.
Well, because you can't change those, and I haven't got the time to be worrying about what those sort of people are thinking, because I'm proud of the service I can offer people, and we work closely with our clients, and they become friends, and you build their businesses with them and clubs. So that takes up your time, and that's all good. That's all positive.
Yeah, and fisheries can manage their fishery in a way that they can be more picky with the clientele they attract, and they can filter who they want.
And it's not an elitist thing. It's no different than anything else. The more you charge, to a certain degree, if you're charging premium. I mean, angling clubs are cheap as chips. We don't go anywhere when angling clubs are expensive. No. And angling clubs, I think a lot of them are massively underrated for how good the fishing is. Yeah. Especially the ones that have got big numbers, so they're earning a few quid and they put it back into the venue. We work at some amazing angling clubs that used to be terrible. Yeah. Some of them have really turned a corner, and now they're producing a lot better product, if you like, for their members. Some aren't. Some are still stuck in the old dark ages. Which is frustrating.
I delivered some fish this week to an estate lake up north, and they were £20 a year, 40 members. They had a fish up to like £35, lovely estate grounds, and you think there's accessible fishing for everyone. If you're not an arsehole, because that is a big element. People want these exclusive syndicates. They want to find these little secret. You've got to be an asset to the fishery, not a liability to them.
Well, and everyone. I've always hated it's okay not to pay brigade, and then we're proper cult, we're proper carpy. They don't want their faces. Well, just don't put it online then. No one cares. No one gives a monkeys what you're doing. But don't go online going I'm ultra carpy when you don't want anyone to know who you are.
Yeah.
Or I don't like that whole side of it. It's like they kind of want to be gangsters, I think. Or they're just a bit.
Yeah, I say it because I care about the industry, and I don't want us to be seen as that kind of crowd. And I don't know what the right way to go about it is and how we fix it and tidy it up.
Yeah, but you're never going to please everybody. No. And from a good place, we're working in an industry which which is all I've ever known. So you're going to care about it.
Yeah.
And so you're well within your rights to have an opinion about certain things within that industry, because a lot of it, like I say, it's all coming from the right place, and it's all for a purpose. I've been slated tons of times online, saying that I said, if I had a pike fishery or predator fishery, I'd only allow single hook pike fishing.
Yeah.
Oh, the pike anglers were in uproar because it's their selfish attitude.
Yeah.
You're not interfering. You're not saying you have to do this ever.
No.
You're saying, if this was my lake, I'd do this because of this, and you can back it up with endless, different situations that you've been involved in. But you say anything that someone disagrees with, the people say that's bollocks. It's like, I don't want guitar lessons. It's that. It's that. So you just ignore them.
Yeah.
You think, okay, well, you go and start your own fishery business. You go and have your own lake.
Put that on the
But
page.
don't go on here with you just with no experience, really. Oh, I go fishing. I play golf once a year.
Yeah.
I'm rubbish. But I don't go and tell the golf club how to run the golf club. As I always say that as an analogy. I say, well, I don't have a crap round of golf and then go and say you need to make that hole bigger because I can't get in. That's what it's like.
It's so
and it's
true.
no disrespect. It's nothing personal to people who go fishing. We all love fishing.
Yeah.
But the more negativity they create by waffling on about stuff, or there was one this morning and I was going to share it and I didn't. It's just some couple of stoners on a bank and they caught a fish, and I don't know if you saw it, but one of them's giggling and laughing. He's got a fish. He's got it in a mat, but then it flaps around. He tries to pick it up in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like a 15-pound cut. Anyone who does that, by the way, if you're like that and you need fishing lessons, you need help. You can't say, "Oh, I've got all the gear." No idea, because if you're trying to pick a fish up what are you doing? That's wrong on so many. Anyway, tries to do that, flaps around, hits the deck, flaps around. His mate's just laughing. You go, "I ain't touching it." You can't. That's not good. That's just core basics, and we can all arc back to the days when, there's so much it's never ending, because you can say with like a mat, people, "Oh, you want us to buy your mats, or you want us to buy your fishery pellets." It can go on and on and on. I don't particularly like fisheries with tons of rules, but there are relative rules I would always indicate in fisheries. But it's choice. People have got choice. But don't go, if you're an angler, any sort of angler, don't go to a fishery and think you can do whatever you want unless you own it. Go to a fishery which suits your fishing, where you're willing to obey the rules set, even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah.
It's not your lake.
They got the freedom of choice. There's so many fisheries out there.
And you've got no rights. If you're paying a ticket to go and fish a club or a lake, there's a lot of work goes into that.
Yeah.
It's not your job to break the rules and then go, "Look at me, I can do it." Go away, and you just get chucked off anyway.
Yeah.
So you've got choice. There's loads of cheap fishing. There's still free fishing available. Angling, I personally think, is in a pretty good place. I've got to be honest. Even with all the hassles that we have, especially with, 1 minute you're flooding, next minute there's disease outbreaks and all sorts of stuff. But fishing's in a good place for us. There's more fishing on TV than there ever has been. But you're always going to get that negativity, and we can go on about it until the cows come home. I'd rather have discussions with anti-anglers.
Yeah.
I really would. I'd love to have a proper grown-up discussion with someone who really doesn't think angling, it thinks it's barbaric, all this and the other. And that would be a good debate.
That would be a good podcast.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that, because it's been my life for so long, and we've kept fish alive and healthy that would have otherwise been, I'm talking hundreds of tons of fish that would be dead long ago if nature had taken its course, that are still alive and well.
Yeah.
As a result of proactive, sensible fishery management.
Yeah.
It's facts.
So with that said then, do you think there's any danger of angling ever being banned as a sport?
Not on my watch.
No.
No.
Good.
No. I mean, it's all this self-righteous stuff, and, there's sort of people who... it's the argument we always get is, because if I go on too much about fish welfare, how I think fish should be treated on the bank, everyone says, "Well, why are you catching them then? Why are you putting hooks in them then?" Which is really naive, because if we didn't catch coarse fish, we don't eat them. So we don't eat these fish. There'd be so few left in decades' time. It's like if no one ate cows and they didn't produce milk that we drank. What's the point of a cow?
Yeah.
And if humans don't need anything, it don't last very long.
No.
Look at any nature. Look at anything in wildlife. Look at any animal. Black rhinos, how many left? One or something, or none maybe now. Nature's on a massive decline. Anything we can't use is disappearing.
Yeah.
Fishing's massively popular. And I'm talking about specifically coarse fishing, which is our main industry here. Obviously, salmon olive fishing's a bit different. They get eaten. So, you know, if you're going to go and have a go at people who are killing the fish, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, we're putting hooks in fish. That's how we catch them. That's how it happens. You put a bait in, potentially you could argue you're tricking the fish into eating, and it's cruel or whatever. I don't buy into that, because that's like saying ban smoking and drinking because it's bad for people.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop people drinking and smoking.
No.
You know, and you can say, well, and if you're going to down the argument that a fish is a sentient being and it feels pain, then it must have choices.
Yeah, I think as well the benefits are being highlighted as well with all the mental health things and bringing juniors, getting them outdoors, because there's less and less things that kids just want to be attached to a device of some sort now, don't they?
Well, without a doubt, being outside is that's what saved me. I think is just being outdoors and getting wet and swimming and mucking around, climbing up trees and jumping into ponds and then fishing. You know, that's one massive, obviously huge part of it.
Yeah,
employment as well. But actually, when it boils down to the fish side of it, I genuinely believe that the sort of work we do is helping.
Yeah,
fish lives matter.
Yeah.
They do. Then that's all we care about. You know, you've only got to look at my house. My little walls are all full of portraits of fish from David Miller, who's the best by far fish portrait artist. Unbelievable. But people like him and people like us who have always worked in the industry, we care about it deeply. And so when people pipe up and say, "Oh, fishing is something," all right, well, I'll give you a lake which is fished properly, managed well, beautiful environment, flora and fauna everywhere, biodiverse, massive amount of wildlife all year round, really well managed. I'll give you that. And then next door, we'll dig another one, and the eco warriors can have that. And we'll make them the same on day one. And then in 10 years' time, we'll go back to them.
Yeah.
And I know which one will have exactly a thriving ecosystem. I know which one will. They'll say it's the other one.
Yeah.
You'll go in there, it'll be overgrown, full of bramble. It'll have dried up probably. There won't be any fish in it. You know, it's such a naive attitude. And I'd love that debate with someone, not just some green-haired one with a Stop Oil T-shirt. I don't want to debate with one of them because they just cry. But a debate with someone who's had a bit of background in, genuinely, who cares as much about not fishing as I do about fishing and fisheries and fish, because it is a debate.
There's a lot of that though, isn't there? Those that are overeducated, been to university, got a degree in ecology, and they come and tell you how to do your job that's actually been doing it for 30 years. And you think, I've been on the bank with you before, and you've had ecologists trying to argue with you about the impact of, they tell you things that you should be doing to improve the ecosystem or the diversity. Have you got any bite back on things that, like when they give you something like that, where they say you need to be doing this to create a better, healthier, rounded ecosystem?
The one that springs to mind is at Leamington Lakes, where on the lake we turned into a syndicate lake. I mean, that place was developed that and made it absolutely immaculate. It's very just awesome, and I could do whatever I wanted there. I could make all these decisions, digging out islands, it was immaculate, and the owners made it just perfect. One of the lakes on there, the Norfolk Reed, when we took over, was encroaching about 15 foot, and I wanted to knock it back. And at some point we were looking at potentially planning to put a cabin on the bank. So we drained the lake, not completely, drained it by half, and I got a digger in, and we did this every few years and just took the reeds back. But this time I wanted to try and dig them out and get them out so the roots are out. A Norfolk reed can grow horrendously. In clay, the roots can go in as far as the stems can come out. They can go and go and go. It's ridiculous. Dug it all out. But before I did it that specific time, I'd done it once before, but only sort of scraped it, and it didn't really work very well. But it was, means to an end anyway. It's just basic plant management. When they grew up the second time, and we were looking at potentially getting the planning, an ecologist came round with his clipboard, and he was walking around, and I followed him like I was on his shoulder. And he walked into this reed bed, and he was not too far, obviously, because there's water there. He might get his foot wet. But he's like poking his head in, and no disrespect to ecologists, I know quite a lot of them. But and I said, "What actually are you looking for?" And he said, "Well, any nests or any." I said, "There's loads." Well, I said, "Well, so what? You're looking for something basically that will stop me from doing it."
Yeah.
Because you speak straight to these people. They've got to give you a right answer. They're not politicians and just lie all the time. I said, so what you're really looking for is reasons why I can't do this.
Yeah.
He said, well, it's all about, the ecology. So I said, yeah, well, tell me then. I said, let's just take a step back. If you do find anything, I said, we've got all sorts growing around here, but it's because every few years we rip it out.
Yeah.
It's no different than when we see places that are left. Oh, another one was a beautiful lake we did, and it's I think it was Natural England or a wildlife trust, and they wouldn't touch anything around this lake, so the lake's knackered. It's full of silt, full of rubbish, and because they won't touch any of the trees, they leave it to nature. A lot of the trees were dead and dying because there's too many trees.
Yeah.
And all as a result of that, the lake was silting up, so the fish were dying. So I'm like, how is that good ecology?
Yeah.
If you're just leaving everything, nature, how is it good ecology? Everything's dying.
Yeah.
So the trees are dying because there's too many. The fish are dying because there was too many, and then all the silt deposits are causing the fish. How is that good? It's good in effect if you're saying leave it to nature. This is what happens with nature, boom and bust. If you're willing to run any wildlife environment or any enclosure or any fishery like that, fine. But that's what happens with nature. It's the same with trees. If there's 100 trees where there should be 50, some are going to die because they're all trying to reach it. Same with plants, same with fish, same with any animal, same with anything in nature.
Yeah.
You either let it do this and accept the fact that things are going to die in a big way, and it doesn't matter what it is. Any living thing, in my opinion, needs careful management. There's a big difference between neglect, careful management of any specific site, and just going, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And don't be touting, oh, this is a special environment, we need to. No. Because long term, you're just kicking stuff down the road, which you should be doing, that you're not, because you can't afford it, you can't be bothered, or you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you can turn any environment, I say to any of the places we go, you can achieve anything. You can do whatever you want. It's not always about chucking loads of money at it either. It's about having a sensible plan for that specific site, regardless of whether it's a fishing lake, a nature reserve, or whatever. But just to
justify their role.
yeah, and just to think you're being Mr. PC and go, oh no, we don't do that because of it. Come on then, have a good reason, a justification for that argument, because we're just trying to keep everything alive, healthy, and well.
Yeah.
And to do that, you have to make some sacrifices, you have to make some investments, and you have to have a plan.
Yeah. So bring it back to your job in consultancy and the services you provide to fishing businesses or fisheries. Do you find that the content you put out do you have any concerns about youngsters coming into the industry all enthusiastic and taking jobs from you? Do you think that you're so well established in I guess it's a brand that you've created, AE Fisheries, you've been a trusted source for information. Do you see new blood coming into the industry threatening?
Only you.
I don't want to do your job.
No.
We're all knackered, better at it.
No, I don't worry about it. If I worried about it, and also I'm amazed that there's not dozens more people putting out the sort of content I'm putting out. But then because I've put so much out and I've been doing it so long, they'll just be repeating stuff I've done.
Yeah.
And and I never want to copy anyone. I never want to. I don't go out of my way to be. I just do what I do. I don't go out of my way to. I think people would struggle because if they put any content online to do with what I do, my job, and they try. Don't get me wrong. We all know there's a few people who have started up doing this, but done it in a way where they've shot themselves in the foot, shall we say? And ruin their reputation before they even got going. That happens a lot. So I don't think when that happens, they're crashing and burning. Me and Viv we studied at the same time back in the Sparshock days, and we always, every now and then when we meet up, we always talk about, oh, have you seen this, have you seen that, and discuss it. But at the end of the day, we all say the same thing. Well, we've been around, we're still doing it now.
Yeah.
So you think you can't worry about that, and it's healthy. I guess it's healthy competition.
Yeah,
and to be fair, the ones that tend to be quite successful is probably because of me.
Well, fair enough.
Well, people like Jack, Jack started on his own. He runs a Leamington, yourself, people, and a lot of it's just work.
But I think
putting the graft.
I think about it more in my content now. I feel like it's difficult for me because I was taught by you. I was with you for 10 years. I sort of underneath you in all your consultancy sort of jobs and hearing how you speak to clients. So that is how I've learnt to be. So it's difficult in my content to think, don't want to copy him, but I'm kind of, what you say is you can't copy facts because the factual stuff is that I've sort of got from you, and Sparshot can teach you so much, but actually getting out there and seeing what happens with fisheries and decision making, really, when you go to fisheries year after year and seeing what they've changed and how it's influenced their stock or the business, that's something that I'm very, very fortunate to be a massive USP for me and my brand now, and it's because of you and AE Fisheries. But
I understand that, but no, that's good, and I'm immensely proud of all your achievements anyway. But I think the main difference between us and more academic people in this industry, and there's a lot who I've got an awful lot of respect for, is their reliance on the written word, as in state and fact. Like, they want data, they want graphs, they want, and all right, you could go and plot, you could go back and plot all that, but it's a fast moving environment, really, because of climate change and everything else. So all of my advice and all of my whole business is based on what I see day to day, what I learn day to day, and move forward with that. And I won't change my opinion or attitude unless I see things regularly in different parts of the country and beyond that I can factually say, don't do this because this won't work, or don't do this because of this, or I've seen this too many times, especially in different regions. And that's the benefit of the difference between being stuck in a classroom or a study and looking at old literature compared to being out in the field very regularly for a long period of time. It's not like I'm sending the lads out netting and I'm just sat at home. I'm still doing it now, and I still love it now. So that's the big difference. Everything I do is based on experience and what I see and do, and I like to think that I offer a good service in that respect. I think as well, when content that, if I'm ever recording something and you're always thinking there's going to be someone that's going to pick me out on figures or facts and things, and you think, actually, I've been doing this and this is how I've done it, and this is it fucking working. It's not like if I ran it off of a graph and a table, it would be completely different. And it's not, I sort of said to you in the past with little things, and to Chip and the others, like with one of the easiest things is with diffusion or electrofishing. And you've been with me, I'm sure, where people go, that's all right, we've got a tank set up, we're going to move some fish about, we'll do it, and they've got an oxygen bottle with an air diffuser on, and they're looking at the gauge. They're not looking in the tank, they're looking at the gauge because it's numbers, because it's facts. Those regimented types, they go, all right, I'll put that on 20. It says on the book, it says in this book here from 1965, I've got to put it on 40 psi, whatever. They're looking here, but I never do that. I buy the cheapest gauge possible. I'm doing it by eye, because that's more important. Micro bubble diffusers, slow contact time, I don't care about, as long as I know what's in the bottle. Same with electrofishing. You can't, if you went on a course and it says run it at 2 amps if the conductivity is X, if you just did that, you kill a load of fish in certain different waters. Never do that. Go to each specific site. And those analogies are true across the board. I don't have any preconceived ideas or misconceptions about anything until I'm on site. It changes every day.
I had an oxygen diffuser from a company, and they told me, they wanted me to do a video on it and told me how to use it, the flow rate I should be having. They sent me a flow meter and regulators to put in the right amount of pressure at the right flow rate, got it absolutely right for the amount of fish that are about to go in the transport tank. And I was looking at it, I was going, the amount of oxygen coming out. I was like, And you think, where's he got his information from?
Exactly. A book.
Obviously, it's a book.
A book somewhere. Someone else has written. And that's what I guess it's not out of stubbornness. I think it's like anyone who does something for their whole life. It'd be like, I don't know any different because I've grown up doing it. I haven't. If you come into something at later, so say if I wanted to be a plumber, I could do it with a plumber actually, and an electrician. I can't do anything. I would tell a lie. I changed a tap a few months ago. I thought I was a plumber then. Then I thought I'd change some lights, and I kept there's still wires hanging out my ceiling. So I'm rubbish at that sort of thing. But if I didn't want to do this anymore, or I was incapacitated and I couldn't speak anymore, or whatever, if I had to go and get a real job and I wanted to be an electrician or a plumber, I'd start reading books about it and going online and stuff. So then I'm going into something almost blind, but then you go down a road of believing whatever certain things are written. And if that's what you've written and that's what you know, and you're going into that, that's the path you've chosen. But having done this since I left school, it's all been eyes on
Yeah.
and in the field, as well as going to college, and that obviously helps. But I think that's the main difference, which is why I care about it, which is why I'm so confident in what I'm doing and what I'm saying over a prolonged period of time, because there isn't many places I go and think, oh, I haven't seen that before.
Yeah.
Because I have.
Yeah.
It's harsh realities. I have. So it also gives you, when you go to certain places and you hear people saying certain things, you go, right, okay, well, that's bollocks. I know that.
Yeah, I guess there's one thing when I say about you being concerned about other people buying nets, but it's one thing having a net and it's being able to use it. And you've got, I don't think anyone can keep up with the amount of kit you've got now, but having the right kit, using it in the right situation, it's not a one size fits all thing, is it? In fact, the day before yesterday, I drained a pond that I harvest, and the net for the following day, yesterday, we drained it dry. I caught them all, every single carp. And that even in the ponds that are easy to net, you don't always catch them all. And that was a bit of a freak, really, for me to catch them all. It was cold, and it all depends on temperature and
how the pond's dug in the first place.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why fish farm ponds, you dig them dead easy.
Yeah.
And even then, they can create carp holes pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the bread and butter is still, and what I really love is it's like going fishing. You need a lot of nets, and we work for clients who go and buy their own kit. I understand that, and they use it themselves. That's absolutely fine. And we've been to places and they've looked at what we've been doing, and they've probably thought, oh, I can do that, and they go and do it. Absolutely fine. It's not easy.
No.
It's easy netting. We go to some lovely places which are a doddle to net, and we've been to places like Ash is the carp syndicate. First time I went there, caught all the carp.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to net. That's difficult. It's all islands and ups and downs and all that. First time we caught all of them. Second time we caught 4.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You blanking it all with nets, 400 metres, doing it all sensibly, properly. You know, anyone can run a net around a pond and catch a few fish. I'm not just there to do that.
No.
I'm there to, while you're in the water, while you're in your waders, while you're walking around, you're working.
Yeah.
So, and regardless of whether the client likes it or not, I'll always say, this is bad, or the undercut banks, or the plants, or the trees, or you'll find the fish and you'll go, these are rubbish. I can't help myself in that environment. I have to say what I'm, and I think that's another reason why we're busy, is because I'm not scared to sort of say, and we've been to places, you've been with me to a number of places where one or two very wealthy individuals where we've been, and they really they're not used to being told anything other than yes, sir.
Okay.
And I remember a few cases where and they've took us out for dinner, and I've said stuff, honest things, not personal things, but about the business or about what, and then you don't get asked back.
Right. Okay.
And you think, okay, well, I've said that because it's come from a place of, trying to help, not to be deliberately antagonistic, but.
Yeah, I think I get the same with the feed though. And you think when people go away and buy other stuff, I know with the feed, I know that it works, and I'm so confident in it that I know that if they go away, I think they're going to have issues and come back, because I think because that's what the journey I've been on through buying the wrong feed, and then through your own advice, going through and getting the plant-based and cereal stuff, and seeing how that changed my ponds and not just the fish, the ponds really, the quality, the water quality and stuff. So
it's like you just said about me and my nets though, it's the same with food. It's one thing having food, it's application as well.
Yeah,
it's the same as nets and how to use them and all that sort of thing. It's no different than having I've been preaching to you for donkey years about supplementary feeding. When you first met me, I was feeding rolled wheat. 20 tonne a year rolled wheat, and I've been doing that for years and years and years, and promoted the fact that, and everyone moans about cereals, you can't get any growth out of them. That's rubbish, complete nonsense. It's not about that. It's about another job that you can do to improve the quality of the fish is regularly supplementing the diet. I don't care if it's irrelevant for fish species, irrelevant for fishery type, but every single venue we go to, regardless of whether it's an angling club, a private fishery or whatever, if the fish are getting a decent level of food, regardless if that's from angling bait, which the likes of linear, which get fished heavily every day, or if it's a supplementary feed. And some of the purists will say, oh, you're putting too much food in the fish and you're polluting the water. It's totally relevant on the lake. If the lake can support that, and there's a good head of fish, and environmental factors you're ticking a lot of boxes, why wouldn't you feed the fish? Yeah. Because then as long as you're stepping in and controlling the stock and managing the stock and managing the environment and managing everything else, to me, that's a massive tick. You can carry on like that infinitely. And we have done on lots of lakes. Feeding, doing all the other bits and pieces. It's never a one size fits all. But if you do all those things, and feeding's a big part of that, feeding, cropping, manage the environment, manage the water quality, it makes it easy. It's a lot of hard work. It's the graft that it's like the graft is the hardest thing for people to do. They like talking about stuff and writing it down, but you say, right, okay, well, who's going to do it then? But that's the frustrating thing. In a way, it's made us busier in the summer working for angling clubs. We do a lot of groundworks and we do a lot of the treatment, and I love it. We get a lot done in the summers regarding fishery groundworks, basically, and fishery maintenance. But it's frustrating when you go places, you give them a plan, they go, yep, that's what we need to do. And you go back a year, you've been with me, and you go back a year later and there'll still be the same pile of rubbish there. They haven't done anything. But they've bought fish normally. Yeah.
No, it's that level of confidence that I know when people go away and buy other stuff, I'm that confident in what I'm doing that I know they're probably going to go along the same path that I did and they'll be back. And it's the same, I guess, in your scenario with netting. Do you feel like you put pressure on yourself being so good at or efficient at netting? And because you only take 3 men with you, you're not taking an army of people like you see online. Is that confidence and that level of success when you go to fisheries that expect you to deliver that sort of service every single time and catch that many fish? Do you find the pressure as it being managing a netting team to deliver like that? Yeah,
you always want to show people what they've got. And in the reality is in some environments, like yesterday was a grueler because it's big. Big and open is easy in my opinion, but it's intricate. So, and it's a gravel pit. So there's loads of bars, loads of gullies, loads of lilies, loads of everything, loads of snags, loads of fallen trees. No one's touched it for years. They're the hardest ones to get. And all you really need to do is you can luck out and you can feed areas in the weeks coming up to netting, which massively helps in those, or you can go in and do loads of work to make it more accessible. People say you only want to do certain things to make the netting easier. I'm like, no, but if I have my own lake, I want it to be able to net easier. I want to be able to catch the fish. People say, no, just leave it, nature take its course. You do that. You do that. You let nature take its course. But while all your fish are dying, it'll be fine for years. You'll be like, oh, look at me, smug. 1 year, it all goes tits up. Then you'll come crying. That's fine. But I just want to be able to have everything managed and everything sensible, so it makes your life easier. It makes the fish's lives easier as you go on. We just want to show the people what they've got. So then when you're advising them to take different directions in maybe how they're running the fishery, you're doing it from a good place. If you can't catch the fish but you know they're in there, that's when I struggle. Because say for electrofishing, because you can't get a net in or whatever, and you can see the fish but you can't physically catch them, and that happens occasionally. You go back and tell the club, everyone just wants to see the fish. So if I tell them they're there, and again, it's horses for courses. It depends on the clients. If the ones that trust you already or that you've already worked for, they'll just say, yeah, okay, well, whatever. They're the best jobs we do, the ones that trust you, that you know, because you can then do what's required, what's needed, and get the result quick. And not necessarily just from catching the fish, but all the things you're trying to implement within that. But it's difficult sometimes when, I'm always under pressure. And yesterday, especially, because we shot 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We did like 900 meters of net and caught 3-pounder roach Monday and Tuesday. And typically, because we carried on and we're knackered and we don't stop and muck around, we then caught a shed load of carp in the last thing. We were there to predominantly, the new owner's a very sensible guy and he wanted to see the levels of silvers and stuff. No one had touched lake for ages. And whilst there's certain areas of lake we couldn't really net, just because of snags and terrible, and we didn't really have time to do a lot of electrofishing. We had a couple of days. It was at least important to catch fish. Bear in mind, that's one of the harshest environments for us to catch fish. I'm not worried about depth. You know, we've got, like you said earlier, I've got stacks of net, but that's no different than any trade having the right tools for any job. In my opinion, anyway. And also, it's not only having the kit, it's the willingness to use it. We could easily go around and do what other people try and do and just use the minimum amount of kit and just go, well, I'm getting paid, I'll just whip a net around there, pull it in, off we go. I don't like doing that. I want to build relationships with my clients so they get us back and use us and be a trusted source for information. So I always do whatever's necessary. It's like yesterday, we could have easily just plodded around and, you know, we could have fired electricity, get up cork if you can't get there, mate. But you try really hard, and that shows. Everyone knows we try as hard.
I think like when I've been with you, it's almost some people you feel like, because you have got such a good reputation of being very good at netting, they almost don't do anything to help you get the best out of your service. So they'll say, go on then, go catch them. And it's not like, if it was me paying for somebody to come and catch my fish, knowing how a net works and how hard it can be in certain scenarios, you want to help Andrew out as best you can if you want to get a full, thorough service, and you turn up and people have got almost the lakes at full capacity of the water level. You can tell people to blue in the teeth about trying to drain a bit off for you to get the fish where you want them, to catch them, so you can do a good service and deliver accurate advice.
Yeah, and it's a bit like the only job I haven't turned down this season, but I've postponed, is there's a really good angling club who's with a really good guy who runs the sort of fishery side of it, and I know they do quite a bit of their own netting, and they asked me to net one of their lakes, and we were due to do it last month, and then I thought, hang on a minute, they've got a couple of nets, and why do they want me to do it? And he said, it's really tricky, and then he sent me a load of photos. There's nowhere to land a net,
Right.
and he knows he's great actually, and he knows what it's all about, but he struggles with the anglers because the anglers just want everything left. And I said, I explained to him, like, a lot of these lakes I've been to in the last couple of years, they're all they're like that, but eventually they have to come in. It goes hand in hand. It's not to make my life easier, it's to make their lives easier. I could just go there and plod around electrify. If there's nowhere to land a net, then I will just say, well, or we'll land one net, and then you spend the rest of the day sorting it out, because it's physically not the space.
Yeah.
Especially when people say to me, the lake's really deep. You go, okay, I've got 2 specifically deep nets which will fish 30 foot.
Yeah.
Which I hardly ever use, because you need a lot of space to use those.
Yeah.
And if people say, I want you to net my lake, it's 30 foot deep, and I go, is there space? No. Right, well, how do you physically want me to get in there to do it and physically do? And if they're not willing to help, I would just say, sorry, I can't do it. And I've done that a couple of times. And this one specifically, I've turned around to them and said, well, I'm gonna waste your money, because I won't catch what the anglers need to see fish in those sort of lakes. And if I can't catch them, the anglers are quick to judge, and they'll go, right, we need more because he didn't catch none.
Yeah.
And if you're supposed to be good at your job and you're not catching fish, sometimes there's not loads there.
Yeah.
But we kind of know when there isn't loads there, because if it goes wrong, you tell the client it's going wrong. You're not there just to get paid. You're there to help. You really are, because that's how you get repeat business.
Yeah.
So you say, it's gone real bad. There's probably loads there. We haven't caught them for a number of reasons, but it's seldom to do with depth, to be honest. Not that many lakes are 25, 30 foot, really. And there's not a lot going on at 25, 30 foot a lot of the time. So I had a couple of specific nets made up to net that sort of depth of water. I've used them a couple of times, but you need space.
Yeah.
It's like anything. It's you always want to do the best job possible, because if you're going to get wet, you might as well try and do what you can.
The fisheries don't always get to see the amount of hours that go in, just while you're there, but you set off dead early to get to site wherever you are in the country. You're on site early, and often the fisheries want you to stay till it gets dark, because they don't realise that you've then got to get home, set up for the next day, disinfect and go again.
Every day, yeah.
So that is graft to repeat that 4 or 5 days a week.
It is, but I just don't know any different. Yeah. It's because if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. I'd go and work in a supermarket.
Yeah.
Or go and fill up your bags of feed, or anything. But I do enjoy it. People are respectful nowadays. If you turn up at 9, 10 o'clock, make excuses for traffic, didn't get out of bed, whatever, and you bring you run undergunned, you bring no kit, you run a little net round and then go home at 2 o'clock, I can understand people getting a bit pissed off. But we're there, and there's loads of reasons, predominantly because I don't like traffic. And I want to get up. I'm a morning person. I want to get up. If you can get on site early, and it's definitely paid dividends a lot of the times when we're on site early, you can see, because fish react differently in the hours before daylight quite often. You can see them topping, especially on vast bits of water. You want every bit of luck you can get when you're trying to catch fish with nets. So yeah, getting on site early. So if you're somewhere at 7:30, 8 o'clock's the latest we'll be on site anywhere. And I do that for a number of reasons. But like I say, then we don't stop for lunch. We all right, you stop and the boys will have a fag, or we'll stop and have a quick slurp of drink, or if they bring us some food. That's just how it's been, because normally we do a lot of local work, but sometimes you're in the vehicles for a couple of 3 hours, even more in the morning, so you can stop and have coffee and a breakfast then. Or when you leave, long journey, you can do it then. Yeah. But I want to be focused on the job when I'm there. And if that was more of a culture thing where, the 9 to 5 brigade, I couldn't do that. No. It'd do my head in. Yeah. And you're right, they're long days. People don't understand. It's when we leave, doesn't matter where we are, how much kit or how little kit we use. Yes, we go home. and I flood all the bins with Zircon. We clean them on site because my argument is if our tools turn up clean, they leave clean, so they'll leave the same state as they turned up. But then obviously biosecurity takes over. You have to clean everything, which is but that's normal. I know a lot of people probably don't do it
because you've got a short day, haven't you? In the season that you work, it's the nighttime. The days are short. The night's drawing in by sort of 3 or 4 o'clock, and you don't want to be. Your nets need to be clean, so you can't be doing that in the dark. So how do you fit that into such a short day, and how do you manage things to?
Well, 9 o'clock's mid morning.
Yeah,
in my opinion, it's mid morning anyway.
Yeah.
So it's about your positive mindset. You love all that mindset stuff. It's about that really. It's about getting up, getting on site, and if people can see you putting the effort in, using loads of kit, doing it properly, doing it thoroughly, working hard, very seldom. And to be honest, nowadays, I must admit now, you'd avoid those clients anyway. I'd pass them on to the others. If people are bitter and they're like, especially if you haven't caught the fish or the fish they expected to be there, and it's 2 o'clock. And don't get me wrong, yesterday we were 180 miles from home and we left at 3:30 in the afternoon, but we started at 7:30. 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30. That's 8 hours on site.
Yeah.
Not stopping and having lunch, not talking and giving it all this and just looking at the lake. In the water, shooting 300, 200, 200, 100. You've done it. Grafting.
Yeah.
You don't stop.
Yeah.
So I am going to go home at 3 o'clock because we've done as much as we can.
Yeah.
We've de-sticked all the kit. We've got it all back on the trailer and the truck. We've decluttered, got it all as clean as it was when it arrived. Then it was just under 4 hours home.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about doing this, and I said, well, but I wasn't going to say no because we've been trying to do it for ages.
Yeah.
But then you get home, and I'm still there in the garage and with the bottom drays cleaning all the stuff.
Yeah.
But that is the job. And don't get me wrong now, as I've got older in the summer, when it gets hard in the winter, I'm thinking, that's all right, it's December now.
Yeah.
By the end of March, I can put the nets away. And my summers are lovely. We do a lot of work in the summer, but when there's not, because you're responsible for people's fish, and when that's shelved until the next season, that's a lot of stress off. That's a lot of pressure off. So then it's just a case of diggers, chainsaws, trees, plants.
Yeah,
lovely.
Water
quality test.
What does a future look like then for you? Is fishery management? Do you see yourself as a fishery manager dealing with anglers, or do you think the next 10 years you'll still be doing what you're doing? How does it look?
I want to do exactly what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
For as long as I possibly
Will
can.
your body let you?
I probably need to look after it a bit more. Well, I stopped drinking.
That's
That was a big deal. I stopped drinking. I mean, I still have the odd tiny little bit of champagne, or I had to have a beer with the lads the other day because I didn't have any non-alcoholic beverages.
Oh.
So, but I've cut massively my drinking out of it, which has helped loads my fitness, clarity, all that sort of nonsense. Started trying to be a bit more respectful of my own body, I guess, because you've seen me through phases of being in hospital with needles sticking out my back and all sorts. That's not a place you want to go again, especially as you get older. But I think also if you're happy, there's a lot to be said for that. If you're content and you're happy and you're minimising stress, you can put up with a lot of stuff.
You get a good balance as well with work life and having a bit of time in the summer to yourself, and you go off hiking and all sorts, don't you? You never sat still for too long.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong, and I do love doing that. I love sitting still. I can do a couple of days of doing zero.
Yeah.
Shutting the door, shutting everything, doing zero. And I love that. But that's precious to me now.
Yeah.
And I enjoy it. I look forward to it, going home and box sets and just eating rubbish. And I'll do that. Then after that, I'm like, okay, I'll go and climb up a mountain or something, which is taken over from angling. I've got to be honest. But fishing for me now is few and far between, but I wouldn't go anywhere where there was any other people or very few people. But yeah, hiking's where it's at for me. But 10 years, I want to do this for as long as I can. I can't afford to retire. It's not a job that pays huge amounts of money because there's limits on what you can charge and there's limits on what you can do in my side of the business. But I've chosen to do that. It's the way I've chosen to do it. It's never going to make me a fortune, but so I've got to carry on working anyway.
Yeah.
But I can see myself doing a bit more, obviously, I don't know, kind of maybe get into, I don't want to be a lecturer or anything like that, but I'll be involved. It's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
I'll always get a job. I'll always have a job. And I think now youngsters coming into it, some of them don't think like that.
As a consultant, though, your phone must ring a lot, particularly with the you said earlier about your phone ringing this year with it being so dry. And how do you have to just kind of partition it and put it away, put your phone away when you go away? Because I know I have people ringing me, and I've said I'll speak to Andrew and say, "Oh, we can't get hold of him." I said, he does do a lot of hours in the winter. He's going to be hard to get hold of, but.
I reply to everyone if they send me an email.
Yeah.
Voicemails and Facebook.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, a couple of times people say, I don't do emails.
Yeah. That's someone.
Okay, well, how are you going to pay me? Or how are you going to correspond?
Yeah.
There's loads of people who you can go with. Don't do emails. That's a couple, and you think maybe they're of no fixed abode. I don't know.
Yeah.
But things like that, you think, well, you just have to sort of get on, really.
Yeah.
Get on and do stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just. It's nice to be busy. I never take that for granted. When I was young and I started doing this, I thought it'd be amazing if I could do this for a job.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, it'd be amazing if I could do that for a job. And now I'm doing it, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I want to carry on doing it for as long as I can. And I'm very lucky, so I don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
And we've seen people come and go who have.
Yeah.
Who go off and mug people off and rip them off,
Yeah.
and then wonder why they don't get. And eventually it all comes to a head because of social media now. But no, I don't take any of it for granted. I really don't. So you're always trying to put maximum amount of effort in. But I think because I've always done that, it's paying off now. Mm-hmm. You know, even from a young age. And the difference is when you're younger, no one listens to you.
Yeah.
No one wants to take your advice at the best of times. You've had it.
Yeah.
And I had it for years. So that makes you a bit stubborn.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when you get enough people to follow you on different journeys, or you get enough people to believe in what you're saying, not what you're selling, but what you're saying and what you're showing them, that to me is golden. That to me is like drugs. That to me is like, oh my God, this is brilliant. You go back year in, year out, and you see the changes they've made based on your reports.
Yeah.
And that for me, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps you driven, and that's what will keep me driven.
Yeah.
So for everyone you go to, or every negative thing that happens, or every idiot you come across, or every that ain't going to touch. It doesn't matter, because there's way more of this than there ever is of this.
Yeah.
And I love it. So I'm not going to do anything else.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think we've been chatting on this is the longest podcast I've ever recorded. So,
is that right?
I know we've had it in the diary and it's kept moving. I know I'm not great at securing a date because I felt I've let you get too disposable because I know you too well. I'm like, oh no, we'll do it another day. We'll do this.
We can always do whatever you want.
Yeah, I think we will. We'll catch up quite regularly, I think, and it'd be good to go out to some of your clients and have kind of a three-way podcast to get their story, and I think that'd be really interesting to try and come out with you. I know it's easier said than harder done. But yeah, I think it's been a good podcast that kind of reflects you and your story and why you have the beliefs that you do and the passion that shines through that some people can sometimes find a little bit abrasive. But in my story, in fact, coming and meeting you for the first time and realising where that comes from now in this podcast is really a good kind of, I guess, indication of you as a person and as a consultant and your experience in the industry, which is unrivaled, really. Because I don't see any sign of you stopping anytime soon. It's only going to get more and more as the years go by. But thank you very much for coming on the Fishery Fastlane podcast, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.